Ciao, I'm Massimo, and in today's recipe we're doing a true Italian classic, Bolognese. And if you only had the quick version until now, you're in for a treat, because we're doing it the right way. Let's cook! Bolognese is a rich, slow-cooked meat sauce packed with flavor. I'll show you every step of it so you can make it just like they do in Bologna. And by the end, you'll have a sauce that's rich, hearty, and absolutely delicious. Ready for your next pasta dish?
Alright, let's get started with one of the most iconic Italian sauces ever, Ragù alla Bolognese. This one is the real deal, the way it's made in Bologna. No shortcuts, no unnecessary ingredients, just slow cooking and deep, rich flavors. First thing first, let's talk about the foundation of any great Bolognese, the Soffritto. This is a mix of onion, carrots and celery, finely chopped. You don't want any big chunks in your sauce. We start with the onions, just cut them in half and peel off the outer layer, then finally chop it into pieces. Next, the carrots, trim off the top and peel away the skin, then dice it into smaller cubes. As for the celery, we cut off the base and peel the outer layer. To remove those hard strings, we definitely don't want in our sauce. Once that's done, we proceed by mincing it finally. The idea is that with long cooking, those vegetables will almost melt into the ragu, adding natural sweetness and depth. Now, in a large heavy bottom pot, heat up a knob of butter and add a little olive oil over medium-high heat. The butter gives richness while the oil stops it from burning. Once it's melted, we add the chopped vegetables and let them cook slowly. We say some things about 10 to 15 minutes, stirring every now and then. The key here is patience. Rushing this step, you lose out on a lot of flavor. You're looking for them to turn something between golden and brown, just like this one. Now, let's talk about the meat. Instead of using pre-ground beef, I like to buy whole cut, like shoulder or short ribs, and ground it myself. You would ask why? Because it gives a much better texture, and the meat holds on the flavor in a way the supermarket already grounded beef just can't. In this case, you have two options. You can either knife shred it, or you can use a hand meat grinder, but without power and sharpness, it can be difficult to get around tougher meat parts. In my case, I opted for the electric version. Those can be found new for around €100 on Amazon. I'll make sure to drop a link below, or you can look in second-hand market where I found this one new for just €25. I think I got lucky. Here, you also have the possibility to decide which size you want the meat to be when it's grinded. I choose the medium one. So, for the Bolognese, we will use a mix of 2 parts of cow shoulder and 1 part of pancetta. This is what is called in Italian. In English, is pork belly. But it's not smoked, not cured, just fresh. I take my beef and cut it into smaller chunks. Then I process all the meat through the meat grinder. It takes a bit longer, but trust me, the texture is unbeatable. Plus, in Bologna, this is how it's traditionally done. We do the same with the pancetta. Once the process is completed, I will start adding the grounded pancetta to the pot. So once it's ready, we will use its fat to brown the upcoming beef. Let it render until it's ready, then remove it from the pot. Next goes in the beef. We go through the same process here.
At this stage, patience is everything. We want the meat to brown slowly so it develops a deep, rich flavor. If you stir too much, it will steam instead of sear, and we don't want that. So we let it sit for a minute, we stir it, we let it sit for another minute, and then we stir again. It will make the whole difference.
This whole process takes around 10 minutes, and by the end, you should have a nicely caramelized meat, exactly like this one. The secret is all here. Once the meat is browned, you get a new flavor that was not existing before. That's why pro chef ragus taste something unbelievable all the time. Now it's time to deglaze with wine. A lot of people assume Bolognese should be made with red wine, but the real recipe from Bologna uses white wine instead. So we put in about 700 milliliters of dry white wine and scrape up any brown bits from the bottom of the pot. This is where all the flavor is. Let it simmer for about 5 minutes until the alcohol has completely evaporated. At this stage of the recipe, with our ingredients ready, we can add all of them to the party. First goes in the soffritto, followed by the pancetta, and then by the beef. Unlike many other Italian sauces, the Ragù alla Bolognese is not a tomato-heavy sauce. We are only adding about 2 cans of canned crushed tomatoes. This is called polpa in Italian. And if you want, want an even deeper flavor, you can add a couple of tablespoons of tomato paste. But that's all optional. I add it this time, followed by crushed tomatoes. Once the tomatoes and the paste are in, we get in touch with the chicken stock we have made in our last recipe and unfroze before starting prepping our ingredients. I leave the link to that video below, so if you're interested in getting to know how it's made, you know where to find it. I know it should be beef stock, but I thought a chicken version will give the bolognese a rounder flavor, since we're using beef already in the recipe. So I add 1 liter broth, keeping half to the side for later, just in case the sauce gets dry. Right here is where the magic happens. The ragu needs at least 2 to 3 hours to develop its rich, deep flavor. And here is an important tip. The sauce should never be boiling, it should be barely bubbling. And if it looks too dry at any point, just add a little more broth, one ladle at a time. Now, here comes a crucial step that might surprise you, adding milk.
Milk in meat sauce? Yes! This is a trick straight from Bologna. The milk helps to balance the acidity of the tomatoes
and gives the sauce a clean, smooth texture. Put in about 500 ml of whole milk, but do it gradually, stirring after each time. At this stage, you can also add a tiny pinch of nutmeg. It's optional, but it adds a fine warmth to the sauce that really complements the flavors. And now we wait, let it simmer, stir occasionally, and resist the urge to rush it. The longer it cooks, the better it gets. And by the end, the sauce should be thick, silky and rich. Not watery, not too chunky, just perfect. Once the ragu is done, we move on to the pasta. Now this is important. Ragù alla bolognese is never served with spaghetti. The official pasta for this sauce is tagliatelle, fresh if possible. Bring a large pot of salted water to a rolling boil and cook the tagliatelle until it's al dente. Once it's ready, drain it and add it straight to the pan where the ragu is laying. Stir everything together, letting the sauce coat the pasta evenly. If needed, add a little pasta water to help it all come together. And now, the final touch. Parmigiano-Reggiano, freshly grated, right on top. Here, my friend, no substitutes, no pre-shredded stuff, just real Parmigiano, because it had the perfect salty, nutty kick that balance out the rich sauce. And look at this beauty in form of a dish. It can't get better than this. But here is the best part. Bolognese isn't just for today's meal. I always make a big batch of ragu because this sauce is perfect for freezing and using in other dishes. So once it's cooled, I take some food containers and divide the sauce into even portions. This way, I have a ready-to-go bolognese for future recipes. For example, gnocchi, lasagna, or even a simple risotto. And many of these recipes I will make in the future. If you're freezing it, make sure to store it in a food container. It will stay good for at least 3 months in the freezer. When you're ready to use it, just place it overnight in the fridge and reheat it slowly on the stove. And that's it, the real traditional ragù alla bolognese. No garlic, no oregano, no unnecessary ingredients, just a slow cooked meat sauce that's pure Italian comfort. This is the kind of dish that brings people together. Family, friends, anyone who appreciates real Italian cooking. So take your time with it, respect the process, and most importantly, enjoy every bite.
Just made a true Italian classic, Bolognese the right way. If you try this at home, let me know how it turns out in the comment. And if you love real Italian food, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on the next recipe. See you soon, ciao!